Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, and Michael Collins continues on, having survived his greatest threat to power yet. Not nationalist dissent in Northern Ireland, not the threats of a British or a German invasion, or a coup to overthrow his government, but the update to a new patch. So a couple of days ago, a new patch for Kaiserreich dropped, which invalidated all prior save games. Now, I have managed to get the previous patch from the Kaiserreich archive. I had to do a bit of editing to the actual save file itself to get it to work. So just in case anything goes wrong for a while, it was looking like I was going to have to either abandon the series or start again and maybe play up to the last episode in the new patch and then continue on from there. But I'm hoping all goes well, but just in case something weird or funky starts to happen. So the brand new update has added, for Ireland, I think it's added some stuff over here in this direction, which we won't be seeing in this playthrough anyway. But we're still back on the 1.1 update. Collins is currently learning from the best, building up a professional army. I'm thinking it might have been a better idea to have gone for the People's Army, fortify the Shannon, because it would work pretty well with reactivating the Irish Wall. But we're going to continue down this direction, build an Irish army. Well, we're not going to continue down that direction, because with the threats to power that Collins is facing and the collapse in stability from Northern Ireland, we're going to work towards uniting behind the president. Now, you might see across the top that we have used up all of our army experience that was gained from training our units, and that is because I have created a new division, Forsa Cosantha O'Toole, the FCA, the Local Defence Forces. And they're your typical 7-2 with an engineering company. Our default divisions are 9 infantry. So I'm going to train. I think we're going to put in just 2 for now. And considering that we got some light tanks from the Germans on the last episode, we're also going to start training a light tank division. So Collins doesn't necessarily have any plans to go on any major conquests and establish a Celtic empire or anything like that, but he does have to look towards the defence of Ireland as world tensions continue to hot up. I had just come over to take a look at what was happening in the United States when we got a pop-up about the fall of Baton Rouge to the United States. So we can see that the American Union state is in a fairly bad position. It's getting ate apart on both sides by the United States and the combined syndicates, who've also taken a good chunk of the coastline here, so it'll be interesting to see if the United States can hold on. We have just finished learning from the best, and when we return to military affairs, I think we're going to come down this wing and head for entrenchment +2 for engineer company, and forts gain additional attack and defense. So that's where we're going to go next when we come back to military affairs. But for now, considering all the trouble that Collins is faced with in Northern Ireland, he's going to have to nail his colours to the mast and commit to upholding the Ulster privileges. So loyalist anger will decrease, which will give us increased political power gain. However, stability will drop to 19%. But then we will be able to go for maintain law and order, for base stability of 12.5%, and then we can commit to uniting behind the president for more base stability. We'll actually get back that 5%. As a result of the grand collapse of the Northern Gardaí, what had initially appeared to be yet another case of sectarian rioting in Ulster has descended into a state approaching urban warfare. The government, fearing that the Southern Gardaí would prove less than impartial if deployed to the north, have instituted martial law in the region. And for now, the army, we're told, has been predominantly pro-German, but for now it has remained loyal to the government. So we have kept the influence between the German Empire and the Union of Britain perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And we're told that if the crisis ends with the current influence levels, Ireland will remain independent and be free to align itself as it chooses. So Collins is still walking that tightrope between the German Empire and the Union of Britain, but everything looks a-okay at the moment. We have the Northern Crisis. So weekly stability is going to continue to fall, and in 90 days, the gateway to the Atlantic event will come to an end. And infrastructure and civilian factories receive one level of damage. And we've also lost out on Mittel Europa. Not gonna lie, can't remember what was or wasn't actually being pushed at that stage. I think we went for an arms factory. I think we'll double down and go for an arms factory, military factory in Connacht, because we do need to start producing military goods. We actually don't have the trucks or enough tanks to outfit a tank division, even with the 100 that Germany gave us. So we're going to need to try and get some factories transitioned over to military factories. Now, with the political power that we have at the moment, we could hold off for... I'm not too sure how many days, actually, I should have checked. Just over 20 days, so about a month. And we would be able to put in place Jerry Boland for an extra 0.1% weekly stability. I think things are looking so bad at the moment that we're actually going to institute a police crackdown. Weekly stability plus 0.5 for 180 days. And something about factory output. We'll ignore that, that's fine. And what a time to be approaching a minus 5% stability drop. We can see that Northern Ireland has become a demilitarized zone which troops may not enter. So in light of the recent instability, many expected that the Ulster privileges would no longer be fit for purpose. In reality, however, despite their many issues, the privileges have managed to largely preserve a relative peace and stability in the region. Yeah, sure. So that is, uphold the Ulster privileges. We've gone to 24% stability. And we will now implement maintain law and order. If we do not have stability, we functionally have nothing. A month on from the implementation of martial law, and the worst of the rioting is under control. Catholic and Protestant paramilitaries had established no-go areas with barricades blocking off roads and armed men keeping watch for the army and opposing paramilitaries. And the government came out against the Blue Shirts and Ono Duffy, who they viewed as playing a prominent role in the establishment and protection of Catholic no-go zones. O'Duffy has complied with government demands to avoid a ban on his party. But the Aontas na Siúnta hardliner Gorodo Honogoin has announced the formation of his own new party, Altiri na Heishairi, meaning the Architects of the Resurrection. And the Irish Citizen Army agitators from the ICA have also begun to take advantage of the military's distraction, as they're too busy plummossing the Germans. So, things are quietening down, stability is stabilising, but Collins is still under a lot of stress. Infrastructure receives even more damage. There's a change in popularity for totalism of 2.5%, and paternal autocracy has fallen by 2.5%. So we can now see over on our political screen, we have Aontas na Siúnta. So we had two separate wings of that beforehand. Now there is just a single wing under Ono Duffy, and we have Altiri na Heishairi under Gorodo Honogoin with 3.2% popularity. Just taking a look at the Mittel Europa vote, and it looks like Germany is supporting industrial advisors. Construction speed 5%, factory output 5% for 180 days. It's not great, but it's better than getting nothing. So I think we're going to back that as well. We're going to change over. I would rather the arms industry, but getting something is better than getting nothing. And we're told that the Italian Civil War resumes. Will Italy ever find peace? And world tensions have gone up over 50%. And we're told about Garibaldi's nightmare and some aspects of Irish and Italian history. And we're given the opportunity to raise the Keogh Brigade. and send it to take part in the Italian Civil War, named for Miles Keogh. I mentioned him in one of my videos on the Irish in the American Civil War in Ultimate General. He fought with the Papal States in the 1860s and was then recruited to the Union side of the American Civil War, where he met Captain Custer and served under Colonel Custer in the aftermath of the American Civil War and was killed alongside him at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Now we'd probably go and support the Pope, who's gotten a new portrait, I believe, in the 1.1.1 update. But for now, we'll probably just stay at home and focus on all the chaos in Ulster. Speaking of Ulster, the army has been sent in to certain areas in a successful operation to break down barricades and reoccupy the streets, which were under paramilitary control. Collins has declared in a speech to the Dáil that while he would continue to uphold the agreement he made in 26 on the Ulster privileges, he would additionally strive to combat anti-Catholic discrimination and put an end to gerrymandering in the north. We must end the destructive conflict and bring order to the province. Base stability plus 2.5%. Having begun his push to subdue the dissent in Northern Ireland, Collins has declared himself to be the only one who can guard against the sickness of crime and chaos. We have maintained law and order, and we're now going to push for Unite Behind the President, which will give daily political power gain of plus 0.02, but a massive change in popularity to authoritarian democracy, political power gain, and base stability. We could also then go for, I don't think we'll go straight away to become the natural party of government, but that would make Owen McNeill, a former president in this timeline, available as a political advisor, which would give even more stability. But for now, we will unite behind the president. And we've just received news that the Kingdom of Spain has capitulated to the Syndicalists. The Northern Crisis is ending in 17 days. Everything is perfectly balanced. We're going to be a bit cheeky. We're going to take a bit of a risk. We're going to purchase small arms from Germany because I do kind of need them. That's going to be active for 14 days. And then we're going to Plomos, the Union of Britain. And we are told that we are no longer under the effects of the Northern Crisis, which was hitting stability on a weekly basis. The Northern Crisis comes to an end peacefully. The government has survived, and we have a moment of respite. The Northern Gardaí have been reconstituted after their collapse along sectarian lines. The members of the Blue Shirts are denouncing the army as traitors and attempting to stir up trouble. But the army itself, even though there are some dissatisfied with the administration, we have managed to stave off a coup, and the cabinet seems to have come to an agreement that there are problems with the Ulster privileges. Not only would reforms to the situation of Catholics be necessary to unify the Irish people, but additionally a total rethink of how the Irish Republic was to be structured, taking the wishes of all sections of the country into account. Reform that we may preserve. The government has withstood its crisis and the country will remain independent. We gain 50 political power and 10% base stability. We're now up to an absolutely staggering 49% stability, and we're actually going to gain some more stability in just a few days when we unite behind the president. I'm not too sure how this is actually going to work out. We're going to take a 10% stability hit to bring the events of Black Monday, hopefully, to an end in just 1 day's time. And because we managed to keep our path perfectly balanced between the German Empire and the Union of Britain, we now have a foreign policy screen showing Michael Collins there in the middle with his head down and members of the negotiating team. that travelled to London for the Anglo-Irish treaty negotiations. And we have a couple of different options now that we can do once the events of Black Monday come to an end and we solidify international recognition. Most likely what we're going to do is seek guarantees from the Germans. Through the steady leadership of Michael Collins, not only has Ireland's economy recovered from the effects of Black Monday, it is now beginning to soar forward into a new era. Let us step forward together into a brighter future. 50 political power, 10% base stability, change in popularity for authoritarian democracy, and we gain invigorated economy, which will give us increased political stability, increased political power gain, and increased daily authoritarian democracy support. And we have another picture of Michael Collins from the Anglo-Irish treaty negotiations. He has seen the folly of his ways in allowing the plight of his fellow countrymen to go unaddressed for the sake of political expediency. And he's now going to make reforms to improve Catholic conditions. The current Sinn Féin administration is secure in its rule for the foreseeable future. More political power, more base stability, and an increased change in popularity of authoritarian democracy. Following the collapse of Carlist Spain and the victory of the Syndicalists, the Spanish Socialist Republic has emerged, and Portugal has taken Galicia. The Spanish Civil War is over. Now that Collins has managed to subdue the crisis in the north, he's going to expand his cabinet, and we're going to add Boland, like I've been saying for a while, but not Gerald Boland. Instead, his brother, Harry Boland, for the civilian to military factory conversion cost decrease and the military factory construction speed increase, because we're going to need to get a couple of military factories up and running with world tensions over 50%. Harry Boland and Michael Collins were good friends. They were two of the highest ranking officers or members of Sinn Féin to avoid capture in the 1918 German plot arrests, so they had a lot of influence and involvement in running the 1918 general election. Boland was president of the IRB and stepped down when he went to the United States, and Collins succeeded him. And Boland basically prepped the way for De Valera's arrival and was heavily involved with the feuds against the American Friends of Irish Freedom, got a lot of the funds and sent across to Ireland a lot of the funds that were used for the procurement of weapons in this time period, so that's presumably why he's been given these traits. And of course, Collins and Boland would fall out over the treaty. Boland would serve on the anti-treaty side and was basically hunted down to a hotel and shot in his bed by Free State forces and dragged out onto the hallway to make it look like he was trying to escape. So both very good friends, and both of them would die very young, within just a couple of months of each other at the very start of the Irish Civil War. But for now, they will both serve. Michael Collins, Harry Boland, Kevin O'Higgins, Richard Mulcahy. What a cabinet. And Boland's appointment is already helping with the conversion of that military factory in Munster, because I think it was going to be taking another 2 months, potentially. We have a lot of damage in Northern Ireland. I think we can actually bring that up to be the next thing to get done, because that should get fixed fairly quickly. The infrastructure in Northern Ireland, that's going to take a while more, though, and you divils, you'll be waiting. You'll be waiting for that to be done. And what a string of successes Collins has had in the last while. Things were looking shaky there for a minute, with Northern Ireland declared as a demilitarized zone, barricades in the street, incompatible save files, and Collins has turned it all around. And men with guns have united behind the president, up to 61% popularity for authoritarian democracy, the best number of stability that it is possible to have, or the best level of stability. And where we're going to head for next is solidify international recognition. This will allow us to seek a guarantee from the Germans To get there, we're going to have to go through ancestral ties, which would allow us to deploy an extra volunteer force in the American Civil War and gain an event about returning Irish Americans to Ireland. So we have some amphibious trains which are coming out of the ocean. And we can also see it's taken us quite a while. We have managed to build our first division of Fros Cosanta O'Toole. So we can put these guys training. The army hasn't been training with a while because everyone's been trained up to the max, but we can get these guys training to get us some extra army experience. And because I'm still on the default starting settings for manpower, it's just volunteers only at the moment, we have population increase of 7,000 per month and recruitable soldiers of about 104, so we do have a bit of a manpower crisis. We're not going to be getting, at the moment, we're not going to be getting a ton of units created. And on completing the ancestral ties focus, we are given a decision: the returning emigrants. We're told that ever since England brought Ireland under their control, immigration became a common occurrence. The Great Famine devastated the Isle, leaving over 1 million dead and more than half again in exile. And the outbreak of the Second American Civil War has led many Americans of Irish descent to seek to return to the homeland of their ancestors. And we are divided on how to deal with this. We should look after those here first for 5 stability. Returning immigrants, monthly population growth 75% or 125% population growth with -10 stability. Now Collins is in a position to suffer that stability hit and gain a population of 125%. I don't think we have anything that we would do with that population immediately though. So I'm going to take the 75% instead. We'll take as many as our resources can handle. I think Collins would be wary of overstretching our economic capacity, and he remembers what it was like having low stability, so he wants to try and keep it as high as possible. Now over here, having completed ancestral ties, we're going to go straight for solidify international recognition, and that will at least give Collins some security and the ability to seek guarantees from the Germans. Whether he does that immediately or not is the next thing, but it will give him the option. These divils have all switched again. Now it's just Ireland and Germany looking stupid, backing industrial advisors, whereas everyone else has gone for support the arms industry. That's fantastic. A military factory in Connacht. We have managed to solidify international recognition, which will open up the ability to gain a guarantee from the Germans, which we're probably going to push for at some stage. I don't think, with the stability that we have at the moment, that gaining access to Owen MacNeill is all that important of a priority right now. We could look at declaring the Republic maintained, which would hit all of our opponents, support for all of our opponents, and then push for an extra research slot from the university expansion grants. Right now though, what Collins is going to do is return to economic matters for the first time in a very long time. Support local fishing potential off-map civilian factories +1. Now I could have taken the other focus, which would have allowed us to send 2 additional battalions or divisions to the American Civil War, but things are not going well for who is probably our preferred candidate, Douglas MacArthur, in the United States. He's been pushed back from Baton Rouge. He's lost the entire coastline. The Pacific states of America are about to descend on Denver and take the coast here. And we don't really need to back anyone in this conflict, considering that we are in a position now to seek guarantees from the Germans. We're not going to take this right now, but as world tension ramps up, it's probably something that we're going to do. We've managed to get the political power together to modify our government. We could consider adding Patrick McGilligan for the factory output and dockyard output. What I'm instead going to do is actually add an industrial concern, and we're going to go for Goulding Chemicals. And what they do is military factory construction speed 10%, civilian factory construction speed 10%, and industrial research speed plus 10%. So we have a kind of a big mishmash of things going on at the moment. We're trying to get some infrastructure built in Connacht. God knows it needs it. So that's going to be finished in July, and then we're on to civilian factories in Munster and a military factory in Connacht. And hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be getting another military factory in Connacht. So we could think about pushing that down. And indeed, we're told that the Mittel Europa Commission has decided to implement the most supported agenda proposal, which we supported as well, receiving the planned benefits. So Leinster got a military factory. Them divils get everything. So there we are at 4 military factories, and for the first time ever, we've pretty much managed to get almost all of our logistics made. I'm not actually deploying any fighters or anything at the moment, so that's okay. We are short some light tanks, but we're producing them. We're short some artillery, but we're producing them. And we have enough trucks for the moment, but if I try to train any more tank divisions, then we're going to need more trucks. So we do need at least one more factory. And the syndicalist contagion from the Spanish Civil War continues to spread. Italy has fallen to socialism under Benito Mussolini, who is now, after declaring war on the Italian state. So things have gone bad there. Michael Collins has just received devastating news while he was cooking the salmon of knowledge, which he has just found as a result of supporting local fishing potential. Kevin O'Higgins came along and with his thumb burst a bubble that was kind of growing on it, or an air pocket. And now it is Kevin O'Higgins that has all the wisdom and knowledge of the salmon of knowledge. Collins is devastated. We're going to move away from this wing of the focus tree for now. It's mainly concerned with recruitable population and monthly population and increasing max factories in a state we're currently up to. Civilian population is growing by 11,000 per month, so it was at 7,000 before we took the decision to return the exiles. And what we're going to do is head for modernized machine tools and equipment, which will increase the research bonus for industry and electronics, and this is where we're going. Faster infrastructure construction speed. Last year saw rioting as a result of the 12th of July celebrations in Northern Ireland, and the same is happening this time round. It's calmer, but we're still suffering a 5% base stability loss. And we receive even more bad news from the United States. Denver has fallen to the Pacific States of America. The USA can't take much more, can it? Baton Rouge is on the verge of falling to another combined syndicates of America naval invasion. We've also just received news that Spain has joined the Third Internationale, while Portugal has joined the Entente. And I've no doubt that the Socialist Republic of Italy, and if it falls to syndicalism, the United States, will probably also join the Third Internationale, so there'll be a substantial bloc arrayed against the Reichspakt. Will it be able to defend us if we ask it for guarantees? We've managed to modernize machine tools and equipment for a research bonus to industry and electronics, and we're going to push on for that infrastructure construction speed boost. Not a single one of these divils knows how to operate a car. We've just recruited our first armoured division, made up mostly of the tanks, that the light tanks that the Germans sold us while they were trying to basically precipitate a coup in the country. We'll put Rory O'Connor in control. Now, we didn't get to use him the last time because I actually selected the naval doctrine and then hired Boyle Somerville as our theorist. But now that he's in place, he's giving us a 10% discount to future naval doctrine. I think we're going to go for convoy interdiction, which is going to give us increased benefits for our submarines, because we have a chunk of them. Well, okay, we don't have a chunk of them. I'd actually want to create some more. I did stop for a while. The United States of America is no more. It has been torn apart by the competing factions. The Union State got 2 states, the Pacific States got 9, and the syndicates have 10 states. And look at the scenario that this has set up, where there's this little enclave up here by the syndicates. If the Pacific States had that, they might be in a better position. So I imagine it's looking like the United States is going to fall to syndicalism. Having stabilized the nation after the Northern Crisis and uniting the nation behind the president, Collins is going to continue to focus on industrial matters which were delayed by that crisis. We're going to take a break from heading down this way, and we're going to go back and form the Irish Mineral and Ore Institute, which is going to give us a couple of decisions and also the ability to an 100% research bonus for excavation technologies, which we're taking a few of thanks to the German construction of oil wells in Connacht. And I was over here checking out what's going on. Fair play to them. I thought the Pacific States would be in a bit of trouble, but they've managed to take Seattle, and they're now pushing against the combined syndicates. And also, the Union State, it's in a bit of trouble, but it's also pushing northwards towards St. Louis. So it's a crazy scenario. The Germans gave us oil wells in Connacht. They gave us a reservoir at Palafuca. We're hoping to develop, I think, steel and bauxite capacities in Cork. But the British gave us tea. Base stability gain, 1.5% and 2.5% for authoritarian democracy. Milk and no sugar. Thanks. Now, at the moment, we are absolutely tearing through political power as a result of the high stability, which means we could consider dismissing Kevin O'Higgins at some stage. He's adding 5% stability and political power gain, and we could add somebody else more economic-minded. For now, I'm going to put alongside him Patrick McGilligan, who I believe was a government minister in the inter-party coalition in 48 that removed De Valera from power. I think he was Minister for Finance. So factory output increases, dockyard output increases, and production efficiency cap increases. So we've just formed the Irish Mineral and Ore Institute, which has given us some decisions. We're going to take a momentary break from expanding the economy to finish today's episode the same way we began, going down the professional army route. We could go for limited motorization. You know what? We could use those trucks, but we're going to go for the enhanced army training regimes. So we can see that we've gotten some new decisions as part of the economic development section. I've taken expand the Cork Steelworks, which is going to add 4 steel in Munster. And we can also get additional steel and aluminium in the other provinces. But we're going to hold off on those for a while. Maybe the aluminium, but we're not in a huge need for the steel at the moment. We could always export it. And we were just told that Germany has crushed the Clover Revolution and maintains its grip over Europe. So there was a threat of a military takeover of Poland if it didn't put down some dissent in the region. And Ireland, of course, is quite worried, or is becoming worried, at the developments in the surrounding region. We can see the Entente has a foothold in Portugal. The Third Internationale has established a wall around us, and we could see the combined syndicates join that as well at some stage, and potentially Ireland's important strategic position might make it a target for one of these powers. And as such, with world tension approaching 60%, Michael Collins will seek a guarantee from the Germans. And what good timing this is, just as we're told that Norway has joined the Entente. The German Empire has committed to guaranteeing Irish independence. Michael Collins has managed to stabilise affairs in Ireland, but with world tension ratcheting up, and as we barrel towards the year 1939, who knows what crisis he will face next. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope that you will join me on the next one, because we need to measure you up for a uniform and teach you how to use a gun.